I'm writing this from a studio apartment that smells like mildew and disappointment, watching my daughter Lisa sleep on an air mattress we bought at a garage sale. 3 months ago, I lived in a 4-bedroom colonial with a pool and a husband who worshipped the ground I walked on. Now I'm 43, divorced, and starting over with nothing because I wanted more than what I had. They say you don't know what you've got until it's gone. That's not true. I knew exactly what I had with David. 21 years of marriage, 2 daughters, financial security, a man who came home every night and asked about my day. I knew all of it. I just thought I deserved better. God, typing that makes me sound like such a cliché. The bored housewife who throws away her perfect life for some excitement. But it wasn't that simple. Nothing ever is when you're living it instead of judging it from the outside. David was a good man. Is a good man, I suppose, though he's not mine anymore. We met in college when I was 21 and full of dreams about traveling the world and living boldly. He was studying accounting, already planning our future while I was still figuring out who I wanted to be. But he was steady and sure, and he looked at me like I hung the moon, so when he proposed 3 months after graduation, I said yes. We had Lisa when I was 24. I'll never forget holding her for the first time, this perfect little person who needed me completely. David cried when the nurse handed her to him, and I fell in love with him all over again watching him fall in love with our daughter. Those early years were everything I'd dreamed family life could be. David worked hard to provide while I stayed home with Lisa, and we were happy. Really, genuinely happy. Lisa was my shadow from the moment she could walk. We did everything together. Mommy and me classes, afternoon tea parties, shopping trips where I'd dress her up like a little doll. David would come home and find us baking cookies or doing crafts, and he'd smile that soft smile of his and say we were his girls. Life was good. Then Katie came along when Lisa was 3, and something shifted. Not with David. He was over the moon about having another daughter. But for me, it was different. Where Lisa had been an easy baby who slept through the night at 8 weeks, Katie was colicky and difficult. She cried constantly, refused to nurse properly, and never seemed to settle unless David was holding her. I tried, God knows I tried, but I couldn't bond with her the way I had with Lisa. "It's just the baby blues," my mother said when I called her crying one afternoon, Katie screaming in the background while Lisa tugged at my leg wanting attention. "It'll pass." But it didn't pass. Days turned to months, and while I went through the motions with Katie, feeding, changing, rocking, my heart wasn't in it. All my maternal instinct seemed to have been used up on Lisa. With Katie, I felt like I was babysitting someone else's child. David noticed, of course. He'd come home and immediately take Katie from me, and the relief I felt was matched only by my guilt. What kind of mother was I? What kind of woman couldn't love her own baby? "You need to try harder with Katie," he said one night after the girls were in bed. We were washing dishes side by side, the domestic rhythm we'd fallen into over the years. "Lisa sees how you are with her sister. It's not good for either of them." "I'm doing my best," I snapped, hating how defensive I sounded. "Are you, though? Today at dinner, you cut up Lisa's food and helped her eat while Katie sat there struggling with her fork. She's only a year younger, Nat. She needs you too." He was right, but I couldn't admit it. Instead, I turned it around on him. "Maybe if you were home more, you'd understand how exhausting it is managing 2 kids all day." It was a low blow. David worked long hours to give us a good life, and he never complained. He just looked at me with those dark eyes full of disappointment and went back to washing dishes. The pattern was set after that. David became Katie's champion while Lisa remained firmly in my camp. As they grew older, the divide became more obvious. Lisa was like me, social, appearance-conscious, always wanting the next new thing. Katie was her father's daughter, quiet, thoughtful, content with simple pleasures. Family dinners became tense affairs with Lisa and me on one side, David and Katie on the other, like some invisible line had been drawn down the middle of our dining room table. "You're playing favorites," David accused during one of our fights when Katie was 8. She'd come home crying because Lisa and I had gone shopping without her, buying matching outfits and getting our nails done. It's emotional neglect, Natalie. You're damaging her. That hit hard. Neglect. Such an ugly word. But it worked. I made more effort after that, including Katie in our girls' days, buying her things even when she insisted she didn't need them. But she could tell it was forced, and so could everyone else. The damage was done. By the time Lisa left for college, our marriage had settled into a comfortable rhythm. Not exciting, but stable. David still looked at me with love, still brought me flowers every Friday, still told me I was beautiful, even as gray crept into my hair and lines formed around my eyes. We had sex on a schedule. Wednesdays and Saturdays, like clockwork. We went to the same restaurants, took the same vacation to the same beach house every summer, had the same conversations about the same topics. I was dying inside. Is that dramatic? Maybe. But imagine living the same day over and over for 2 decades. Imagine knowing exactly what your husband will say when he walks in the door, what he'll order at every restaurant, what position he'll want in bed. Imagine feeling like you're slowly disappearing into the wallpaper of your own life. That's when I did something stupid. No, not stupid. Desperate. David had left his phone on the counter one morning, and when it buzzed with a text, I glanced at it out of habit. It was from someone named Bill about a meeting later that week. The name seemed familiar, so I unlocked David's phone. I knew his passcode. He'd never hidden anything from me. And scrolled through their messages. All business, dry talk about contracts and negotiations. But I clicked on Bill's contact info and saw his photo. He was handsome in that silver fox way, with salt and pepper hair and a confident smile. According to David's contacts, he owned some tech company. Successful, sophisticated, everything that had been missing from my routine life. I should have put the phone down, should have gone about my day. Instead, I took a screenshot of his contact information and sent it to myself. For 3 days, I stared at that phone number. What was I thinking? What did I expect to happen? But the boredom was crushing me, and Lisa was gone, and Katie barely spoke to me despite living in the same house. I felt invisible in my own life. So I called him. "Bill Morrison," he answered, his voice deep and professional. "Hi, this is Natalie. I think we have mutual friends. David Sullivan mentioned you." It was such a transparent lie, but he didn't question it. We talked for 20 minutes about nothing: the weather, local restaurants, the challenges of running a business. He was charming and witty, and when he laughed at something I said, I felt alive in a way I hadn't in years. "I'd love to continue this conversation over coffee sometime," he said as we were wrapping up. "If you're interested." I was very interested. Our first meeting was at a Starbucks halfway between our neighborhoods. I told David I was meeting my book club and spent 2 hours getting ready, trying on different outfits like a teenager. When Bill walked in wearing an expensive suit and immediately spotted me, his face lighting up, I felt chosen in a way David hadn't made me feel in years. "You're even lovelier than your voice suggested," he said, and I actually blushed. Coffee turned into lunch. Lunch turned into drinks. Drinks turned into him kissing me in the parking lot while rain hammered on his Mercedes roof, and I kissed him back like a drowning woman gasping for air. "I'm married," I whispered against his lips. "I know," he replied, and kissed me again. The affair was intoxicating. Suddenly I had secrets, had somewhere to be, had someone who wanted to hear about my day and actually listen to the answer. Bill took me to restaurants David would never try, bought me jewelry David would consider wasteful, made me feel desired in ways I'd forgotten existed. "You're radiant," he'd tell me, tracing his fingers down my spine in hotel rooms we'd rent for the afternoon. "How did I get so lucky?" I'd lie there afterward, staring at the ceiling, trying not to think about David at home making dinner for Katie, helping with homework, being the stable parent while I played at being someone else. But the guilt never lasted long. As soon as Bill texted, I'd feel that rush again, that reminder that I was more than just someone's wife and mother. Lisa knew something was different when she came home for Thanksgiving. "You look amazing, Mom. Are you doing something new with your hair? Just taking better care of myself, I said, avoiding David's eyes across the table. Katie barely looked up from her plate. At 16, she'd grown into a lovely young woman despite my failures as her mother. She was polite but distant, treating me like a stranger she happened to live with. It stung, but I told myself it was her loss. I had Bill now. I didn't need validation from a teenager who'd chosen her father over me years ago. The text messages with Bill became constant. He'd send me photos from his business trips, tell me about deals he was closing, describe what he wanted to do to me when he got back. I'd respond with increasing boldness, sending pictures David had never asked for, saying things that would have mortified the woman I'd been 6 months ago. One night, I was in bed texting Bill while David showered. We were planning a weekend away. I'd tell David I was visiting Lisa at college, and I was giddy with anticipation. Bill had just sent a string of heart emojis when exhaustion hit me. The last thing I remember is trying to type a response. I woke up to David plugging in my phone, which must have slipped from my hand. He always did little things like that, thoughtful gestures I'd stopped noticing years ago. I mumbled thanks and went back to sleep, never knowing he'd seen everything. The next morning was normal. David made breakfast like always. Katie grabbed toast and rushed out for school. I had my coffee and scrolled through Instagram. When David kissed me goodbye, I barely looked up. I had a lunch date with Bill and needed to figure out what to wear. But David came back. I was in the kitchen cleaning up when he walked in and dropped a manila envelope on the counter. "What's this?" I asked, wiping my hands on a dish towel. "Look for yourself." The photos spilled out like an accusation. Me and Bill entering his car, us walking into a hotel. The worst was a grainy shot through his car window, us kissing like teenagers. My stomach dropped to my feet. "David, There's video, too," he said, sliding a USB drive across the counter. "But I don't recommend watching it. I couldn't." I thumbed through the photos with shaking hands, my mind racing for explanations, excuses, anything to make this less than what it was. But there was no denying photographic evidence. "Oh, God," I whispered. "How do you know Bill?" His voice was calm, controlled, nothing like the explosion I expected. I couldn't lie anymore. "I got his number from your phone. I was just curious. It started as nothing, just talking, and then you decided to throw away 21 years of marriage for someone with a bigger bank account. It's not about money." But even as I said it, I knew it wasn't entirely true. Bill's wealth was part of the attraction, not just the money itself, but what it represented: success, power. A life bigger than the suburban routine I'd been trapped in. "I was lonely," I tried to explain. "You're always working or focused on Katie. When was the last time you really saw me, really wanted me?" "I see you every day, Natalie. I've loved you every day for over 2 decades, but apparently that wasn't enough." Tears streamed down my face. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. It was a mistake. We can work through this. Couples therapy, whatever you want. Please don't throw our life away over this." He laughed, but it was bitter and wrong coming from him. "I'm not throwing anything away. You already did that. I've filed for divorce. I have copies of everything. My lawyer will be in touch." "What about the girls?" I gasped, grasping for anything to change his mind. "You should have thought about them before you started this. We'll tell them together, but make no mistake. This is your doing." He left me sobbing at the kitchen counter, surrounded by evidence of my betrayal. I called Bill immediately, needing comfort, needing someone to tell me it would be okay. "David knows," I said when he answered. "He has photos. He's filing for divorce." There was a long pause. "Shit, Natalie, I didn't sign up for this kind of drama." "What do you mean?" "Bill, I'm leaving my husband. We can finally be together properly." "Whoa, slow down. We were having fun, but I'm not looking for anything serious. You said you understood that." Had I? Maybe. In the beginning, I'd told him I just wanted excitement, adventure, to feel alive again. But somewhere along the way, I'd started building fantasies about our future together. His penthouse apartment, his business trips that I'd join him on, the life of sophistication and spontaneity I'd missed out on by marrying young. "Bill, please, I need to see you." "I think we should take a break, let things cool down. I don't want to get in the middle of a messy divorce." He hung up, and I knew with sick certainty that he was done with me. The full weight of what I'd destroyed crashed down. My marriage was over. My lover wanted nothing to do with me, and I still had to face my daughters. Telling Katie was awful. She cried and asked if we could work it out, and when David gently explained why we couldn't, she looked at me with such disappointment I wanted to disappear. But at least she was sad. That meant she still cared about our family, even if she'd never cared much for me. Lisa was supposed to be my salvation, my ally, the one person who would understand and support me no matter what. When she came home that weekend, I was sure she'd take my side once she heard how trapped and lonely I'd been. Instead, she surprised us all. "Is that all?" she said after David finished explaining. When I confirmed the affair, she turned on him with a viciousness I'd never seen from her. "You're seriously throwing away our family because Mom made one mistake? That's pathetic. You're insecure and controlling." I should have corrected her. Should have admitted that it wasn't one mistake, but months of deliberate choices. Should have taken responsibility instead of letting David bear the blame. But I was so relieved to have someone on my side that I stayed silent. David tried to explain about me taking Bill's number, about the planning and deception involved, but Lisa wasn't having it. "Mom deserves to be happy. If you couldn't make her happy, that's on you." Katie fled to her room in tears. David looked between Lisa and me with such disgust that I couldn't meet his eyes. But I didn't speak up. I let my daughter defend me with lies, because I was too much of a coward to face the truth. The divorce was brutal. David's lawyer came with receipts, literally. All the hotel charges, the gifts Bill had bought me, the timeline of the affair. There was no denying what I'd done or hiding assets. The judge wasn't sympathetic to a cheating spouse, especially one who'd initiated the affair. I lost the house. Lost primary custody of Katie, who chose her father anyway. Lost the alimony I'd counted on to maintain my lifestyle. All I got was a small settlement and my car. Lisa gallantly offered to get an apartment with me, taking a semester off from college to support her poor, wronged mother. The 2-bedroom apartment we found was a far cry from our colonial. Thin walls, outdated appliances, a view of the parking lot instead of our tree-lined street. But Lisa tried to make it cheerful, decorating with string lights and photos of us from happier times. Notably, none included David or Katie. "We'll make this work, Mom," she said, unpacking our dishes into cabinets that wouldn't close properly. Who needs them anyway? But the cracks showed immediately. I couldn't afford to maintain the lifestyle Lisa was accustomed to. No more shopping trips, no more spa days, no more brunches at trendy restaurants. I had to find a job for the first time in 20 years, and the only place that would hire someone with no recent experience was a call center doing customer service for a credit card company. "This is temporary," I told myself every morning as I put on the cheap polyester uniform. "Bill will come around. He just needs time." But Bill's number was disconnected. His social media blocked me. When I drove by his office building, security told me I was on a list and would be arrested for trespassing if I returned. The rejection stung worse than David's because at least David had loved me once. Bill had just been playing, and I'd destroyed my life for a game. Lisa tried to stay positive, but living together without David's steady presence and income was harder than either of us anticipated. I'd come home exhausted from dealing with angry customers all day to find her frustrated about money for textbooks or gas. The mother-daughter shopping trips became arguments about what we could afford. The closeness we'd always shared started fraying under the pressure of reality. "Maybe you could ask Dad for help," she suggested one night after I'd cried over the electricity bill. "I can't," I admitted. "The divorce settlement was very clear. I get nothing more than what was agreed." "This is his fault anyway," Lisa said, but her voice lacked conviction. "If he hadn't been so stubborn." We both knew that wasn't true, but we kept up the fiction because the alternative meant admitting I'd ruined everything for nothing. The breaking point came when I lost my job. I'd called in sick too many times, too overwhelmed by depression to face another day of angry voices and impossible metrics. Lisa came home to find me sobbing on our second-hand couch, termination letter in hand. "I can't do this anymore," I wailed. "I've lost everything. My husband, my home, my dignity. And for what? For a man who won't even return my calls." Lisa sat beside me, and for the first time since the divorce, she looked at me with something other than blind support. "Mom, why did you really do it? Was Bill worth all this?" The truth came pouring out. How bored I'd been. How invisible I'd felt. How Bill had made me feel special and chosen and alive. How I'd convinced myself I deserved more than contentment. That passion was worth any price. "But it wasn't," I sobbed. "David loved me. He might not have been exciting, but he loved me every single day, and I threw it away because I wanted to feel 25 again." Lisa was quiet for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was small. "You know what the worst part is? Dad never said a bad word about you. Even when I blamed him, he just took it. He protected you even after what you did." That broke something in me. David, steady, reliable David, had maintained his integrity even as I let him be vilified. He'd protected my relationship with Lisa even though I'd destroyed our marriage. "I'm going to visit Dad," Lisa said, standing up. I need to apologize and figure some things out." "Lisa, please, don't leave me too." She looked at me, and I saw myself reflected in her eyes. Selfish, destructive, always taking the easy way out. "I'm not leaving you, Mom. But I can't keep pretending this is all Dad's fault. You made choices, bad ones, and now we're all paying for them." She packed a bag and left. I spent that night alone in the apartment, listening to the neighbors fight through the thin walls, wondering how I'd fallen so far so fast. 6 months ago, I had a husband who adored me, 2 daughters, a beautiful home, security. Now I had nothing but regret and a studio apartment I was about to be evicted from. The next morning, I did the only thing I could think of. I drove to our old house, David's house now, and rang the doorbell. He answered, looking tired but well. Behind him, I could see Katie doing homework at the dining room table, our old life continuing without me. "Natalie," he said, not unkindly but without warmth. "What do you need?" "I'm sorry," I said, the words feeling inadequate. "I'm so sorry. I destroyed everything for nothing. You were a good husband, David, the best. And I threw it away because I'm selfish and stupid and—" "Stop," he said gently. "I appreciate the apology, but it doesn't change anything. We're divorced. That's done. You need to focus on moving forward, not looking back." "How?" I asked desperately. "I've lost everything. My home, my family, my dignity. Lisa won't even talk to me now that she's realized what I really did. I have nothing left." He studied me for a moment, and I saw a flicker of the man who'd loved me for 21 years. "You have a chance to rebuild, Natalie, to become someone better than who you were. But you have to do the work. Take responsibility. Stop blaming everyone else for the consequences of your choices." "I don't know how," I admitted. "Start with therapy. Get a job, any job. Rebuild your relationship with Lisa through honesty, not manipulation. And for God's sake, stay away from Bill Morrison. He was never going to leave his bachelor lifestyle for you." "You knew he was single?" "I know everything about the man who helped destroy my marriage," David said simply. "But he didn't make you call him. That was all you." Katie appeared behind him, looking at me with those serious eyes so like her father's. "Dad, is everything okay?" "Everything's fine, sweetheart. Your mother was just leaving." As he closed the door, I heard Katie ask, "Do you think she'll ever understand what she gave up?" I didn't hear David's response, but I knew the answer. I understood perfectly. I'd had a man who loved me, daughters who needed me, a life that was good if not exciting. And I'd burned it all down for the chance to feel special in a hotel room with a man who forgot my name the moment things got complicated. Now I live in that moldy studio apartment, working double shifts at a diner where I serve coffee to happy families and wonder what might have been. Lisa visits sometimes, but it's strained. She's rebuilding her relationship with her father and sister, and I'm glad, even if it means I'm on the outside looking in at the family I created and then destroyed. Bill? I saw him last month at a restaurant I could never afford now. He was with a woman half his age, feeding her the same lines he'd used on me. When our eyes met, he looked through me like I was nobody, which I suppose I am now. Just another middle-aged divorcee who thought the grass was greener and found out too late it was artificial turf. David remarried last year, a pediatrician named Sarah who Katie adores and Lisa respects. They look happy in the photos Lisa sometimes shares. The kind of deep, settled happiness I had and didn't value until it was gone. I heard they're expecting a baby, starting the family David always wanted with someone who appreciates him. Me? I'm learning to live with myself, to sit with the knowledge that I had everything and threw it away for nothing. Some nights, the regret is so heavy I can barely breathe. But I'm in therapy now, finally doing the work David suggested. Not to win anyone back, that ship has sailed, but to understand why I made such catastrophically bad choices. My therapist says I was addicted to validation, that I needed external excitement because I'd never learned to find worth within myself. She's probably right. I spent so many years being David's wife and Lisa's mother that I forgot who Natalie was. And when Bill made me feel like more than just a suburban mom, I mistook that artificial high for real connection. The irony is that David saw me more clearly than anyone. He loved me not despite my flaws, but with full knowledge of them. He gave me stability so I could grow, partnership so I could thrive, faithfulness so I could trust. And I repaid him with betrayal because stability felt boring and partnership felt predictable and faithfulness felt like prison. Now I'm free to eat cereal for dinner in my studio apartment, free to work doubles to make rent, free to spend holidays alone while my family celebrates without me, free to scroll through David's wife's Instagram and see the life I should have had, free to know that every bit of this is my own doing. Some women learn from others' mistakes. I had to destroy my own life to understand that boring is just another word for blessed, that predictable means dependable, that a man who comes home every night is worth 1,000 who text you from hotel rooms. But understanding came too late, 21 years too late. And now all I have are these regrets, and the knowledge that somewhere out there, David is living his best life with someone who knows his worth. I'm the cautionary tale now, the woman other wives point to and say, don't end up like her. The one who had it all and lost it for a few months of feeling special to someone who didn't even remember my last name. There's no redemption arc here, no winning anyone back, no happy ending. Just a middle-aged woman in a moldy apartment, serving coffee to happy families, living with the consequences of choosing excitement over love, passion over partnership, Bill Morrison over David Sullivan. And the worst part? I can't even blame anyone but myself. That's my story. The whole truth of how I became the villain in my own life. How I broke the heart of the only man who ever really loved me. How I lost my daughter's respect. How I ended up exactly where I deserved to be. Alone.